Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening. Alright. So for today, we will continue our class with a new chapter, which is for today we continue with chapter 3, which is project scope management. Okay. What is a project scope management? All right. The project scope management actually the process or the way we develop the scope for the projects. So this is a very important process in the project management. While we completing the planning, this is a part of the planning in the project management, where we decide after we complete the charters and then we got the approval from our management, then we move it to do a project scope. So while in our project charter, actually we already discussed or we already written there the project scope the project scope. So what scopes that we will cover, but this is not the final scopes that we consider in the project management when we return to our or we write the project charter, because the project charter actually come from the sponsors. So sponsors are the sponsors are actually the owners of the project charter, not the project manager. That's why the project scope management is the first task of the project manager. So what we're going to cover in this topic, we cover first, the introduction is just to wrap up what is project scope management all about, and then we talk about the project scope management. The project scope management. After that, we discuss on the requirements, because when we want to put the scope, we must have the requirements that we need in our works, in our projects. So the we need to collect the requirements. What is a requirement for the project? What is important of these elements in the project? This is what we did, and then we define the scope. We define the scope. After that, we talk about the work breakdown structure. The work breakdown structure is one of the scope baseline. This is very important. This is the point that we use to execute the project. The work breakdown structure is a part of the scope management, because we do the work breakdown structure, and then we define it at each of work breakdown structure in detail. That's why we come up with so-called the work breakdown structure dictionary later on. Later we will see how this process happen, and then after that we need to validate our scope. Then after we validate our scope, we control the scope during the project executions, right? So we start with introductions to the project scope management. What is a project scope management? So project scope management actually refer to the work involved. They said here, involve the creating of deliverables process to create them. So we have a project scope management, we have a project statement, and then this is the this is how project scope works. Sorry, sometimes I forgot. I write in this. Okay, you have okay, let's say we have the project statement. And then we also have the work breakdown structure. So these two elements, the project statement, actually we put what is the statements that important in this, and then we write the work breakdown structure. So from the top, bottom, and then we define. We have, for example, this one, the work breakdown structure. We start with process of, let's say in the construction, this is HVAC, for example. This is our project to install the HVAC. So down to that, we have another works that we have must do. For example, we install the ducting, for example, ducting, GI ducts, in example, GI ducts, and then we need to put the, let's say, we use a concept of not the centralized at all. Maybe some part we use what they call it, the fan coil, for example. So we have in the detail of the fan coil, we still have wirings and all that, and then this is, we call it the work breakdown structure. So all these two, project statement and work breakdown structure, will move to the deliverable. So that's why they said that we creating the deliverables, and the process used to create them. This is what deliverables. The project statement is the things that we need to deliver, and then work breakdown structures actually the process that we use to create them. Okay, that is all about the project scope. This is what we will learn today, and then based on these definitions. All right. The detailed definitions they mention here is the process required to ensure that projects includes all work required. All work required. This is include under work required is include under the project statement, right? And then and only work required to complete the project successfully. Why they said the only work required here? The only work required, because in the scope of projects, we don't want to do some things that not in our scope, and which is, this is not add a value to our projects. Maybe it's incur a cost, maybe later you fail the project, or sometimes they call it a scope creep. Okay, they call it the scope creeps. Okay. All right. In the project scope management, as I said before, the process that involve only two, which is a planning process. How many process that we have in the project management all together? How many process? Ain? How many process involved in the project management?
Proses involve 7 atau 8. Tak pasti doktor.
How it comes 7 or 8? What is actually the process in the project management? Azimi?
4.
4.
4.
How you get 4? What is the process?
Integrated management knowledge area.
That is the knowledge area.
Ini
Process in project management.
6.
6. What is the process?
Scope management, collect requirement, define scope, create WBS.
That is a scope. I'm not asking about the scope. How many the process in the project management all together? How many process you have in the project management?
Not sure.
Not sure. Okay.
Yeah.
All students in this class answer the correct answer when I ask this question in quiz 1. How you can answer correct? All correct. None of you make a wrong. All correct. Fazlan, what is the process, Fazlan?
Yang initiate, planning, execute,
Okay.
monitor, control.
Initiate, planning,
Planning, execute, monitor, control, closing.
execute, monitor, closing. Right? Please remember, we only have 5 processes in the project management. Body knowledge, yes, we have in total 10 body knowledge. That's why they call it the PM box. Projects, project management body of knowledge. Okay, PM box. PM box. So this box. Okay. So body of knowledge. So this body of knowledge we have in total 10 body of knowledge. The process in total we have 5. Okay, please remember we have 5 process, we have 10 body of knowledge. Okay, this is a second body, the second body of knowledge. Second body of knowledge. So in this second body of knowledge, the process involve only 2, which is a planning and monitoring. Planning and monitoring. So what is the planning process group? In this project scope management, we have a plan scope management. And then we have a collect requirements. Then we define the scope. After that, we create the work breakdown structure. All this under the planning. Why we group this under the planning? Because plan scope management confirm we planning. Collect requirement, still the output of the collect requirement actually we need to use for planning. We define the scope also for the purpose of planning. And then we create the work breakdown structure. The words creates here means that we still in planning. We are not yet execute. After that, we need to monitor, we need to check or we need to revisit the scope that we have defines, and we already write the work breakdown structure. So what is the, we need to validate the scope. How to validate? We have a lot of methods. Maybe after this you can see what's the input and output. One thing, the tools that we use as for the validate scope, for sure the expert judgment, as what we see in the previous topic. And then we control the scope. The purpose of control the scope, we want to make sure that our scope is not what they call it, all the scope are involved in the process, and then this is, we are not creating the what so-called scope creep. Okay, scope creep. All right, so that is why we have a control scope. Okay, the project scope management means that is a constantly check to make sure all work is being completed, treating the additional work as outside the scope of this project, saying that can it wait, let us do an impact analysis. So if our client or our customer come to us and then say that, okay, can you do this, treating the additional works, right? This is happen for, if for example you do a renovation part. The customer always say that, even though first they say that, for example, they say, okay, the project is to install the awnings for house, for example. Very simple. After installing the awning, they say that, can you put a gutter? Which is a gutter is not included in our scope of work. So, do we do the customer request based on that this situation, or we can say that can it wait until you complete and then you study, you do some impact analysis. Impact analysis here, this is actually reflect to the cost and time. Why cost and time? Because this is the main in the project management. Sorry. Okay. Not adding to the scope without the structured change control system. Please not add any to the scope without the structured change control system. So we must get the permissions first after we can add as a any changes to the any edit scope to the original scope, and then make sure all change fit within the project charter. So this is our document that we refer, project charter. So all those scope changes must within the what we spell out in the project charter, must within that the project charter. The reason why, because in the project charter we already include the cost here. We already include cost. So if we put something, if we add something in scope, our scope of work, this might be incur our cost. Cost might be higher, and also the time to complete the works maybe we need to extend. This is happen in the projects. Normally this happen in the projects. I know Fadlan has experience. Maybe he knows that all projects. I can say all projects in this country, they have scope changes. Some of them maybe we can adopt, but most of the time very difficult to absorb because of the contractor. They want to win the tender, and then normally they try to put the price for the tender just enough for them to get 10 to 20% of profits. So if you adjust a little bit, and then you know, during the planning for any contractor or any the supplier, they already consider the cost for example transportations, and then they also have a miscellaneous cost, which is the something that we not predict. We cannot predict happen. So for example, in our situations currently, who have defined the projects before the pandemic, you can see the cost of the steel. If you read current news, the steel increased from 2000 plus, 2000 plus now, sorry, 4000 plus now goes to the 8000. Sorry, 2000, correct. The 2000 plus now goes to the 4000 plus per ton. Okay, per ton. So you can imagine that the price of the irons or the steels increase 100%. So this will incur the cost for the contractor who has not yet finished the project. Normally we use steel in the construction for beam, for example, for slab. If you want to make a slab, for sure we need to use a steel. For column, for example, we need to use a steel. So all these are cost to the contractor, which is unpredictable cost. So let's say they put the price before the pandemic, the cost still 2000. Who expect that cost will incur 100% after the construction? So that's why make sure all those changes fit within the project charter, and that is not out of the project charter objective of the project charter. All right. Defining and controlling what is and is not in the project. Defining and controlling what is and is not in the project. We must control what is in the project, what is not in the project. And then prevent doing extra work, or we call it a gold plating. You know the gold plating? You know gold plating?
Wasim no.
What is Fazlan?
Covered or coat things on the surface with gold.
only good in surface, but in the reality is not do well. Okay, gold plating. So extra work. We do extra work. For example, let's say you want to use a steel inside the bin. We put the steel inside the bin. Why we need to go plating this steel? It's not important at all. The extra work which is not give a value to the item. Let's say you found you get a gold medal gold medal. So just a gold plating. This medal you cannot sell because this is not the real gold. This is just gold plating. Doing extra work just to look nice without increase the value. Value not increase, but it looks nice. Don't doing the extra works. Don't do the extra work in the project. Okay, just for gold plating, because you cannot get the value for that. All right. Next, the key concept. What is the concept of the project scope management? Product scope. One is a product scope. Product scope is features and functions that characterize a product, service, or a result. That one we call it the product scope. The project scope, the work must be performed to deliver the result with the specific features. We have a product scope, we have a project scope. Product scope, for example, the specs that we the final spec that we get, that is a scope. So for example, you buy a kancil, you buy a proton vira. So they have a different scope. Kancil, purposely they design for, they call it a town car. Town car. City car, sorry, not town car, they call it the city car. So the features and the functions of the product kancil is for the city. What is a city needs? One is people just want to travel from point A to point B, which is the distance from point A to point B is not far. One thing. Second thing is in the city normally very hard to get a parking. The space very small. Then they design the parking lot also very just nice. If you drive the bigger car, then maybe very difficult for you to get a parking. One thing, but this is not the very crucial because the parking already okay. If you don't have any parking, you cannot simply park even though you use a product kancil. But another thing is gas. You just want to move from point A to point B. Why you want to use a big car, which is you need to pay more on the gasoline. So because of that, product came with the idea of city car, which is a small compact car, and you still can travel from A to B with a very low fuel consumptions. That's why they call it the features function that characterize a product. A product is in this case, city car. This is what they want to make. If you buy a proton vira or proton waja or whatever type of proton car, not the small car. After that, proton came with a small car. Before that, protons produce a so-called family car. This is a product scope. The scope for the product is for family car. Who's the target person? They don't target the rich person, because rich person for sure they can buy the MPV, for example. So the target is the middle age. Okay, middle age with a medium income. It's not low income, this is a medium income. So medium income, they afford to buy a car for their family. So they make a Proton Wajah, Proton Wira. This is a for family car. Why? Because they have a bigger boot compared to the Kancil. So the segment or the target market, the products that the final product they want to produce is a family car. So the features and the functions they make also different. They have a bigger boot here for Proton, and then the functions. Functions is a lot of function for the family. Better seats, rest. So bigger in the what they call it. So you can drive far from point A to point B, but the distance much longer than the small car. Okay. All right. And then when you drive a Proton Wira, for example, you are not tired as what you drive the Kancil, because the Kancil maybe can goes up to the 120 km per hour, the maximum, but the Protons can go maybe up to 180 km per second, kilometer per hour, for example. That is a function. So similar to the project, the work that must be performed to deliver the results. If you want to make a building, so the scope should cover how to make a building, starting from the designs. We already see the scope of work, and then until completing. You must make sure that the scope that we put there, if you want to make hospital, they become a hospital as an output. If you want to make, for example, we want to make surau, so end of product should be a surau. We not make like for example, we want to make a school, at the end of the day it's changed to the supermarket, for example. It's not happen because the scope of work in the early stage, we already know that we want to build a school. So our scope is only cover what important in school, what the requirement for the to build the school, for example. Okay, so that is a project scope. The project life cycle. Okay, the project life cycle. In this case, for the scope predictive, we predict the deliverables are defined at the beginning and maybe change. This is what we understand the project life cycle, and then change only done after the formal change approved process. That is normal, as I mentioned many times, that we cannot change the process until we got the approval from the change board. All right, measure against the project management plans to ensure the completion. Formal acceptance is a validated. Formal acceptance is in the validated scope process. So we validate it in the scope process. All this process started from here, the predictive, until here. This is, we call it the concept of waterfall. Why we call it the waterfall? Because we need to complete this first step to second step to third step. So this is the concept of waterfall. So we complete the activity 1, we go to the activity 2, we go to the activity 3. So this, we call it the waterfall concept. But in the agile, okay, in the scope also we can do agile. Deliverables develop over many iterations because of, let's say, one project. So they have step 1, and then they go to the straight way to the step 2, or normally we would like a circle like this. So 1 we complete, and then we go to the step 2 in the circle, step 3, step 4. So what were different between this and this? This is the customer can complain after complete step 3, the customer here. In this process, customer are involved after complete 1 cycle. The customer involved in each stage, or we make this as a developments or once initial developments already involvement with the customer. That's why they call it the agile, and then the process become faster. At the end of the day, the scope that we plan or the scope that we finalize is consider the customer feedback. Already consider the customer feedback. Then when the products come out or out from the manufacturing, the product already for the market, and then the customer already happy with the products because they get involved with in the early stage. So that's why we call it deliverable develop over many iterations. So they have 1 cycle, 2 cycle, 3 cycle, which is each cycle we have a complete product until, for example, we make a same product here. Same product here maybe can be developed here, the final product. Same as here, we got the final product. But is, let's say people, the customer happy when the third iterations already happy, or the second iteration already happy. Here already happy. We no need to produce this one like this. So our scope now become small. So it will reduce our cost, but the product that we want to sell, the customer already willing to buy. So we no need to go up here. Maybe the last. That is what happened to the automotive industry. Normally they will use a waterfall concept. They delivers and then come out to the customer. Customer cannot do anything, cannot change anymore. The system, they can change only. That's why if you look into the current trend of automotive industry, especially Toyota, you can see that when they come out with the product, they still have a room of improvement that they work with normally in the exterior lah, interior or exterior design, but the engine is still fixed lah. You cannot change that at all. But the cosmetic part, normally they work with a third party to produce the skirt, for example, skirtings. And then when they see that, okay, this is what the people want, the next versions of the same product, they start to change. So you can see how Estima, you can see the Estima, Eras, and without the Eras. So before Eras, they call it Estima S30, I can't remember, S30 maybe. After that S50. Okay, EF or H. I also forgot what code, but this one is 30, 50. Okay, in 30, they no skirt at all. So but they sell the skirt for the Estima through the TRD. But for the S50, they already include the skirt here. So that is how the agile process develop, and then people, they see what is the customer actually wanted, and then they start to change immediately because it's already in the market when they produce the first one. So this is how the agile works in automotive industry. Okay, additive to the high levels of changes, sponsors or customer are constantly engaged. That's why I say for the first start, customer already engaged. And then if here customer only engage after you complete the product, this is the first prototype. Also involvement with the customer already involved in the agile. That's why the agile is most popular now, because the manufacturer itself, they don't want to produce some things that when they are the product in the market, nobody want to buy it. Okay. No market at all. So that is a very dangerous. Okay, sponsor and customer are constantly engaged. They provide the feedback to on the deliverables. So they will give the feedback. How the things that they want to looks. It looks like how the shape, for example, or the functions, for example. A lot of telecommunication industry or mobile industry, they are involved with this so-called agile. That's why you can see the telco company, sorry, not the telco, we call it a mobile company, produce Samsung, like Samsung, Huawei, even the Apple, you know. You can see how the process, the evaluations, evaluations of one phone to another phone is, the thing is, the change is very fast. For 1 year, you can see a few models come. Like a Samsung, I can't follow the Samsung phones, the model for the Samsung, because there is a lot of models in the market. iPhones is also similar, but iPhone is very easy to follow because of the just Apple 12, Apple 13, 13 bits, or mini, or how we call it, mini, Pro Max, and so on. So that is how Apple is a bit easy to follow, but the Samsung, Huawei, Oppo, for example, lot of models come out at the same time, and then the process is very fast. You can see a new model come out early next year. Okay, which we cannot imagine. Why the products come out very fast, and then how they know that the features that they want to put in the phones, actually the features what are people looking. This is due to the feedback from the customer. This is the process of agile. Due to the agile process, they know the people needs. Okay, any changes are reflect to the product backing. So all those reflects to the product. Even in the normal concept on the waterfall also similar, and then this also happen in the agile. Okay, as organizations become more complex, requirements gatherings becomes more complex. Okay, and then they say that the business, this is in terms of the trend and emerging practice. Business analysis activities of defining, managing, and controlling start early in the initial phase. Of course, the scope is started early in the initiation phase. So we have 5 process. The process started in the early. So a business analysis work in the collaborations with the project manager. Okay. And then requirement gathering work is a part of the project management plan. Requirement. We need to gather the requirements. What is important? In education, for example, if you want to make a new program, new course, new program, so we need to get the feedback from the industry. This is a requirement from industry actually. What industry need? And then we must also follow the NQA, Nation Qualification Academics. So we need to follow them. So we know that the requirement from the industry, what industry need, and then what is the government standards or the government law okay, standard is not law. The government standards in education that we need to follow. So similar with the products, requirement, what is need in the product. So the product requirements. So for what purpose? For example, now a lot of products, they go for the green product. The requirement from the government, they said that you must have at least 30 to 40% green product in your building. This is for example. Last time, the government said for any contractor, if they want to claim back so-called IBS, Industrial Building System Correct. Industrial building. Correct me if I'm wrong, Fazlan. IBS is a industrial building system, right?
Kalau tak silap industrialized macam tu lah. Lebih kurang lah maksudnya.
Industrialized building system, which is the buildings built in industry, and then actually the concept, actually they want to reduce the time consuming and also the material. Let's say you want to make a column, you have a formwork. So the formwork in the normal formwork they make from the wood, plywood for example. So if plywood you just can use one time, after that you need to throw out. So this is a waste. So they want to control the waste and also time consuming. So you no need to do again to make a framework if you use a steel framework, or they call it the formwork, steel formwork. So IBS. So last time, if the buildings contain 70% of IBS, so the contractor can claim back the IBS fee, some sort like fee. I think not fee. They call it in Malay they call it the wang cagaran. Apa dia panggil in English? In Malay they call it the wang cagaran. So they need to put this certain amount when they want to start the project to the CIDB. So if they can show that they use 70%, they have a calculations, but I not cover here lah because we are not in the IBS class. I know a bit on the how to calculate the IBS to get the 70%, how to calculate the 70%. They already have a table, they already have a, I can say that they have a calculator lah for that. But you must know how to read the architecture plan and the civil plan. And then mechanical is not included in this IBS. They only consider the civil work and the architecture part in the buildings. Okay, so the mechanical part not considered in this IBS. Okay, it must be completed within the time and schedule. So this tailoring knowledge and requirements is tailored to the knowledge and requirement. What are the guidelines for gathering the requirement? Validations and control to validate and control the scope. So is tailored to the validations and the control process, existing in formal or informal form, and then develop approach. It is interactive or incremental approach. Okay, so it is a predictive or hybrid approach. So stability requirements and then the governance itself. Is there a formal audits or the policy procedures and the guideline? Okay, agile or adaptive, less time to spend in defining and agreeing on the scope early in the project. If agile, for sure, we just through the idea, if we are the product development, so we just through the idea, give to the customer, customer give the feedback. The feedback from the customer consider as our scope of work. So that's why the process become faster, because you do a simple and then you give, during the prototype, you give a chance for the customer to comment, and then they will add value to the comments with what is the customer needs actually. So the process become faster because we are not complete the requirement first. After that, we want to do to start put the scope of work. In the agile, we did almost complete, then we tell people not the final product, but this is the prototype product. Customer already give a feedback, and then we change from there until we got the final product. That is an agile process. Build and review a prototype and release a frequent version and refine the requirements. All right. Any question so far? Tak agak lah saya malam-malam ni. Minum air sikit. Ada soalan? Any question so far? Tak ada
Doktor.
Ada, bagus. Alright. So, can we continue? Can?
Boleh, kan?
All right.
Can.
So we go for the first process in this project scope management. What we call it in this process we call the plan scope management. So how to plan the scope? Okay, this is what we cover in this chapter. The first subchapter, the second subchapter, which is a subchapter 2. All right, the plan scope management. So we have in total we have 7 process in this plan, project scope management. 6 process. So now the first process. Plan scope management. What is plan scope? The definitions. Plan scope management is the process of creating a scope management plan that documents how the project scope will be defined, validate, and control. It will give a guidance on how the scope will manage throughout the project and helps to reduce the risk of the scope creep. Okay. Before we go further, I will share this video and then okay. Wait a minute, maybe. Right. I stop the sharing this one. I will share you this video. Maybe you can enjoy this video first. Minute, This video talk about the scope creep. Okay. You see? Can you see this video? Can I? Okay. I play. If you didn't hear sound, please inform.
We have met that objective and then some. The Bradley Armored Personnel Carrier will bring troops to a combat zone swiftly, efficiently, and safely. It will hold 11 men, plus a driver, and features a 20mm cannon, which will provide ample firepower and at the same time flexibility. Lightly armored, speedy, and solidly engineered, our troops will be arriving at the battlefield in the very finest American technology has to offer. And at $1.5 million per, a real bargain.
Nice work, Colonel.
Outstanding. Damn impressive.
In other words, it was designed to be a big taxi cab, drive guys to the battlefield and go back home.
But how did it end up with a turret on top?
Well, this is all well and good, Colonel Smith, but...
Something wrong, General?
Well, with this gorilla in production, I don't suppose there's going to be anything left in the budget for my scout.
Doubt it, Bob.
You don't need scouts. You have radar, air recon, satellites.
You always need a scout. And you know what I'm thinking? Why couldn't this thing serve as a scout?
But it's a troop carrier, General.
But this is a speedy vehicle. Why can't it be both?
Well, for one thing, it's too big. And for the other, you can't really see out all that much from inside.
Sounds like a design flaw to me.
Design flaw? No.
No, we'll just stick a turret on top with lots of opticals.
But then, sir, it'll be even bigger.
Well, what's your problem, Smith? Not elegant enough for you?
Well, the thing is, General, it's kind of hard to do a sneak and peek when you're over 10 feet tall.
He's got a point, Bob.
Well, all I know is we need a scout. This is fast enough to do the job, and it's funded.
Well, actually, we're a hair over budget.
You turned the Bradley into a scout. We're going to be selling them off to some El Presidente de Chimichanga in no time.
Anything for surveillance ends up south of the border before the paint even dries.
When you needed that anti-aircraft gun, who backed you up on that?
You did, Bob.
And who testified to appropriations on behalf of that gun?
You did, Bob.
I'm talking to appropriations next week. Now, do I sell you on my scout or do I not?
You did, Bob. And how about some portholes along the side for individual firearms so the fellas can stick out their guns and shoot people?
Good. And you know what, Colonel? We already have the turret. We ought to get the biggest bang we can up there.
I'm sorry, bang, sir?
You can't hurt anybody with that pansy-ass gun. Add on some firepower.
Where am I supposed to fit the extra ammo?
I don't know. Can't you just shift things around? Make some room.
You already got 4,400 rounds of machine gun ammo. Now you want to add 25mm shells.
General wants his ammo.
You can't have his ammo unless he runs alongside this thing carrying it.
Well, can't you just squeeze it in?
No.
Oh, come on, just squeeze it in.
We're not trying on Levi's here, Colonel.
Are you telling me that in a vehicle this size you can't find room for a few rounds of ammunition?
Not in its current configuration, no, sir.
So the configuration's wrong.
There must be something you can dump.
Dump, sir?
Something you don't need.
General, the interior is very spare. Besides the ammunition and the men...
Maybe you can leave one of the fellows behind. With the ammo where the men go.
Sir. It is a troop carrier.
So? Make a couple extra trips. What's the difference?
They want a transport that doesn't carry men and a scout that's got a cannon as big as a tank's on it.
And portholes.
Oh, great, portholes. So the guys can shoot out whatever they can't hit with their cannon.
You don't have to buy the damn thing, Jones. Just draw it. That's one hell of a cannon.
That's the problem.
Why?
You go out in the battlefield with this pecker sticking out of your turret, and the enemy's gonna unload on you with all they got. Might as well paint a big red bullseye on the side.
But it's a troop carrier, not a tank.
Do you want me to put a sign on it in 50 languages? I'm a troop carrier, not a tank. Please don't shoot at me.
This was gonna be so beautiful.
That's good work, Smith. Looks perfect to me.
Thank you, sir.
Thing is,
Yes, General?
looks a little like a tank with that cannon on top. Probably gonna draw more fire.
Actually, sir, that has come to our attention.
We know it's not a tank, but will the other side?
I guess we could always thicken the armor, toughen up the hide a bit.
Colonel Smith, could you explain why you put those portholes there?
Yes, sir. As per your request, so the men could shoot out at the enemy.
You're joking, aren't you?
Besides, portholes? What are we in now, the Navy? Say, you think you could make this thing amphibious? You know, get the troops across a river?
No. No, sir. No. No.
Amphibious? The Bradley's supposed to swim?
In theory, at least.
Amphibious troop carrier / scout
/ tank.
Couple more months, I bet they can get this thing to fly.
What's this in the margin? Please help me. I am losing my mind. RLS.
Lieutenant Colonel Robert Laurel Smith, head of oversight and development.
Aluminum. This thing's got an aluminum skin.
Huh?
Anything an enemy tank fires at is gonna go through it like a hot knife through butter.
We're doing the specs on using steel rather than aluminum. Of course, steel is much heavier than aluminum, so it won't go as fast.
No, we can't lose speed. We lose speed, it won't work as a scout vehicle.
It won't keep pace with the M1 tanks either.
Thicker armor's a reactive measure. Let's think proactive here. I say equip the thing with anti-tank missiles. Then it can blast those enemy tanks before they get a chance to fire. What do you think, Colonel?
Fine!
Anti-tank missiles?
I don't know.
Where do I put them? The men will have to wear the missiles as hats.
I don't know, Jones. That's why you get paid the big bucks.
Colonel, there's no room. We're not talking
Got
about...
a pair of Levi's. I know. God damn it! What we are talking about is 11 years with nothing to show for it. Except an ulcer the size of the District of Columbia and a career that's on permanent hold. You see this? I've been a bird colonel so long, I swear I'm growing feathers. Now, if you have to design hats to hold those goddamn missiles, then just do it. Ladies and gentlemen, if I can have your attention, please. If you'd all just take your seats. Thank you. We are pleased to present a scale model of the new Bradley fighting vehicle. It carries 6 men.
How many was it supposed to carry?
11.
Bradley is outfitted with the most sophisticated surveillance equipment ever developed. It is also equipped with a rapid-fire cannon and an anti-tank rocket launcher.
Which means it's loaded with
1,500 shells and 10-tow anti-tank missiles.
So in summation, gentlemen, what you have before you is
a troop transport that can't carry troops, a reconnaissance vehicle that's too conspicuous to do reconnaissance,
and a quasi-tank that has less armor than a snowblower, but has enough ammo to take out half of DC.
Fantastic. Congrats.
All right. Okay, class. All right. What do you understand from these videos? Actually, what you understand from this video, and then what you learn from this video.
The scope keep on changing.
Pardon?
The scopes of project keep on changing.
The scope is keep on changing. Okay, others? No. Others, what do you think about this video? What is your comment? What do you understand the video?
So basically, most of them are planning outside of the scope, which is like the main the description. But and then they want to edit something that out of the scope.
Yes, not the out of the scope, because they still consider as a scope because of. Okay, this is correct, because the adding something is not important to the tanker as a tank. If you want to develop the tank, you want to build the tank, they put some scopes which is not actually purposed to develop to build the tank. That's why one of the generals said that you think this is submerged, something like that, right? Navies, which is the scopes actually we put normally they are in the navy in the ships, but they put into the tank. You see, and then this is how the scope creep we call it. So a lot of things that they add into the tank, which is not really important to the tank, but based on what they needs. So this is, we call it a scope creep. So in this story, actually a lot of scope creep, but the story actually tried to tell us two things. One is the project manager, the field of the project manager to advise the top management, or we can call it the executive committees, the sponsors team, about the scope, which is the scope that they put into the tank is not the scope, not the real scope, not the, this is not to develop the tank actually. They just put whatever the teams want to. Actually, the task of the project manager need to advise them. In this case, you cannot put this because of the cost of the tank, for example, 200,000 now increased to 500,000 due to the scope creep, which is the scope is not important to the projects that we want to deliver. They are not tallied to the objective that we decide in the project charter. So that's why when we have a scope throughout the project, they help to reduce the risk of scope creep. Okay, that is the issue. A lot of scope creep actually happens in this story due to the poor management of the poor projects managers in this case. Okay, so the project scope actually, if we return the project scope in the early, we have a plan, so the plans can guide us not to avoid from this scope creep happen. So because the scope creep happen, we will incur the cost. Cost will increase. All right. So when we do a plan scope management process, so the inputs that we need in this planning, so we must have the so-called we must have the project management plan. The second part is a project charter, and then EEF and also OPA. These two compulsory in any process normally. We have the either EEE alone or both EEE, EEF and also OPA. All right, what we need in the project management plan, the inputs that we need in the project management plan, quality management plan. What type of quality that we want to produce? The kind of quality. Quality and how to call it? The quality of the product itself depends. You can make one product also considered as quality, but the quality of the products, which quality you follow, this is the thing, which quality you follow. So that's why the quality management plan. Let's say you buy something from shop, and then you see the SIRIM certificate, not certificate, hologram. They put the SIRIM hologram here. You must confirm whether the SIRIM hologram here, either for the product is achieve the certifications, the whole product, the quality of the product, or sometimes the quality of the cover only. This is normally people do. They make they got a SIRIM approval, for example, for different quality of product, but they claim for different one. Especially on the the direct selling product, normally they use the SIRIM as a selling point. Say you see our product already have a SIRIM certificate, but which certificate of SIRIM that you get? Which product you get? Either this is maybe you got this in terms of green products, you use all those green products, but it's not shows that your product is good. Not tested on your product. This is how the quality management plan. What quality we want to focus. Influences the approach to be taken to the plan of to be taken to plan the scope. Influencing. And then the project life description. We must know how long the project taken. Let's say we want to project complete within 2 years. construction project. So the scope should follow these 2 years. Don't make a scope like a 3 years project. And then you say that you must complete this project within for 2 years. This is a project management. The inputs that we want, we must know how long the time given for us to complete the project. This similar with your final year project later on. You must know your scope because you only have 1 year to complete your final year project. Started from this semester and then you need to complete by middle of next semester. So you have not even 1 year, less than that. So your scope should, this is your input. So if you want to make a scope, your scope should consider this. How long it takes. This is happen to the government project, you know, the project like normally the inputs we know already in the early, but the government said that new project 2 years. This is not your ITM, not UTM decide. Decision for 2 years is decided by cabinet. Ministry, ministry lah, ministry, MOF, the ministry involved is the Ministry of Finance. This is the ministry that governs all this project in our country, followed by the JKR, Jabatan Kerja Raya, or Department of Development. So 2 years, new project, except for hospital. Hospital they can complete for 3 years, but renovation, the maximum we can get is 1.5 years, or they call it the 18 month. Only 18 months. How big your works in renovation is you spell out that this is project of renovation. So you renovate, for example, you renovate the shop lot to change to the university, for example. UITM, we buy a lot of shop lot and then we renovate, change to the university. We only have 18 months to change everything. That is a project life description. So we know that. So the scope that we made, we should follow this. The government already said you only have 18 months. So do the scope based on 18 months, not do scope, make the scope for 2 years. So we must know what is a time. That's why the experience very important here. All right, then the project phase. How many phase that we have? Either one single phase complete, or we have phase. Like as I mentioned last time, we make a highway from Kuala Lipis to the Gua Musang. Kuala Lipis to Gua Musang. So they have a few stages. First phase from Kuala Lipis to Sungai Koyan, for example. After that, from the Sungai Koyan goes to the I can't remember the name of place, but it's not yet go to the Gua Musang. Sungai Koyan, they go to the Merapuh, if I'm not mistaken. Merapuh. After Merapuh, they go straight to the Gua Musang. So at least they have 3 phase of the project. So phase 1, phase 2, and the phase 3. Okay. So the project phase. So we can plan the scope based on the phase. Okay, that's why important for us input about the phase, how many phase, and then development approach. Development approach. How the approach that we're going to use. So we must know either the turnkey project, design and build project, or other people design, and then we as a customer, we hire the consultants, and then the constant, all these need to consider development approach. Or we build as a PFI, for example, government fund or private fund. So this is a development approach that we have. Waterfall in the project management, iterative or agile approach. As I said, the waterfall, they have a stages. Let's say this is a design, and then goes to the what they call after design. We have the plan, for example, and then the process, the third process, and then the fourth process. Okay, this is a waterfall. So we do this process like a waterfall and then iterative. We short the process of waterfall or agile approach, which is the agile approach. We complete one cycle, customer comment. We do the second cycle, customer comment. We do the third cycle, maybe we can produce the final products. For the construction, the agile might be not good, not yet in the construction, but in the automotive or in other manufacturing process, produce the product, the agile now become famous. So the waterfall or the agile process, which approach that we use in this project. So we put as an input, because if we do agile, we must know what is the scope for the agile. As I mentioned, agile, the first step, first cycle, just produce a prototype. The scope also for the prototype, and then the prototype takes a very short time to produce the prototype, and then they come up with a second prototype, for example, and then come up with a final. For the handphone, for example, you can see the iPhones. I always take iPhone as an example because of you can see the process that iPhone did, because in Samsung is very difficult because they put a lot of model. Actually, this is the process in the agile process. They come out in order to come up with a better products. But in the handphone, iPhones, normally they come out with in the middles, the lower grades and the higher grades. So this is actually the process of the agile as well. They want to know what is the best. That's why in between, you can see that iPhone 8 to the iPhone 10, they know iPhone 9. We don't have iPhone 9. What iPhones in between the 8 and 10? You know? What brands between the iPhone 9, iPhone 8 and iPhone 10? Ada iPhone 10? You're not aware? You know iPhone 11 model kan? iPhone 10 ada. So in between sudah ada model. I give you assignments. You go and check. In the between, actually the process of they want to develop the iPhone 11s. In between 8 and 11, in between iPhone 10 and all that, if you see that the production process is very the life of the product is very short. After that, they don't iPhone not produce anymore this product because of the target is iPhone 11, and then goes to iPhone 12, and then goes to the iPhone 13 now. So all this following the agile approach. All right. The second input was project charter. Okay, the project charter. We need a project charter in terms of product description. For example, what kind of product we want to produce, high level requirements. In the project charter, we inform that this what requirements that we're going to follow. And then the constraints and the assumptions. Some of the projects, some of the products, we have the constraint. And then we put the some assumption. We already spell out this in our project charter. Is it we take only these three? No, we take all project charter. But this is the main focus when we want to develop the plan. So if we want to develop the scope. So in order to plan the scope, these three items from the project charter that we consider, we take first. The rest also important, the cost and all that in scope. Yes, we need to consider that as well. But this is the compulsory elements that we need to look at, or we need to take as our input. Next, we have the enterprise environmental factor. What we need here is the personnel administration. Market condition. This is very important when we want to plan the scope. What market needs? What are markets survey says about the products? So if you want to do a new project or new products, so we must to know what is market conditions. As I said in the early, if you want to build a car for a city, what is the market condition? If you want to build a family car like MPV, what is the market condition? That's why Toyota, I like the Toyota concept of this project. When they make one car, they have a market segment, we call it. That is actually the market condition. They have a market segment. You can see that they have three types of MPV. One, Wish, Toyota Wish. Second, Estima. After that, go to Alphard or Wildfire. This is talk about the same function. Wish actually the target market for buyer who in the age of 30 to 40, but they have more kids. So let's say they have 4 kids, 5 kids, and then they are in the middle to high income. Okay, middle to high income. Wish. After that, when you still when you what they call it, when your age goes up, and then in the early 40s and all and above. And I didn't say that people who are below the 40 they cannot afford to buy the Estima. No. This is where the segment. Normally, if you are in the age of 40, your kids normally goes to the secondary school. Age of 13 to the 17, for example. So if you use Wish, you want to travel, it's not what they call it. They are not conducive anymore using the Wish. So they start to think to change to the Estima. Okay, change to the Estima, or they change to Alphard and Wildfire. This is two different. Estima normally they goes for the middle income. Then who have more money, they go for Alphard and Wildfire, which is the high income. Because this considered as luxury. But the function still, they have 7-seater. Estima also 7-seater, which only they claim 8-seater, but only comfort for 6, or if kids they can put up to the 8-seater. Estima also they have some 8-seater, 7 to 8, but this 8 is not conducive anymore, not good for travel Right. So this is how they put the market statement. market conditions. So they know the market condition and then they come up with a product, the projects or the products. So they come up with this. So similar with the government build, for example, now government make a T-Rex. I don't know why lah, but we talk about the how they study and then why they want to make a Tun Razak exchange. What this market condition said in the middle of the Kuala Lumpur, they want to build some more office because this is the center of the Kuala Lumpur, and then they have the KLCC. There's the interchange, or they call it the transportation is a very easy. If they make a Tun Razak exchange, and then this is in the center, so people from outside they just drop at the airport and then take the train straight away go to the T-Rex. That's why they make a T-Rex, and then the bigger because the project they know that the market condition people will buy. This is based on the theory lah, but I don't know whether people want to buy or not based on the economy. But the strategy, why they make a T-Rex there, because of this is a strategy. Easy to access from the public transport. The most important, the projects. So the scope also need to consider. If you make something that need, so that's why the scope for the T-Rex, they link with the LRT project. Okay, they know already this what the target, and then the infrastructure, same condition, market condition goes to the infrastructure. When we want to develop one project, we need to see what is infrastructure around surrounding, because we don't if you want to develop the scope, we also need to know what is a infrastructure surrounding. Because if not, we need to maybe we need to change some scope. For example, I make one example. I visit a hospital, not a hospital, not yet hospital, but in the development. Hospital University Sabah, University Malaysia Sabah. They invite me to give talk to the concession there, plus the contractor. And then we have short discussions with the development office of UMS. All right. My task there is to talk about the risk assessment. What risk that they need to do during the construction. So I went there, give talk to this concession and also the contractor, talking about the risk assessment. So quite surprised because the infrastructures, the scope actually not consider what they have in the Sabah. For example, certain scope in the hospital, they need to get the items, the material from this Semenanjung Malaysia, Peninsula Malaysia. So they need to transport, which is the infrastructure for this transportation is not really good in Sabah. In the pelabuhan and then goes to the SUMS. So this is not the best infrastructure. So what happened? The project's delay. So I asked them to put as a risk. So need to register this as a risk, a part of your risk, and then you consider, and then you need to change the schedule. They cannot change the scope anymore because this scope already presented to the Ministry of Finance and also the Ministry of Higher Education. So they cannot change the scope. So what they can change only that time, the schedule, and then send back the new schedule to the government that asking to extend the process because the scope, the fit scope that they decide, because the scope 100% follow what we did in Hospital UiTM. So they need to change actually because the locations and all that. This is what happened in the Hospital University Malaysia Sabah. All right. And then the final inputs is organization, process, asset. So we must to know the policies and the procedure. What policies that we need to follow. What is our procedure, SOP, for we need to follow. And then lessons learned from the previous project, and also the historical information that we have. All right, so we consider all this as our input. After we have these 4 items as an input, then we found we need to determine the tools that we're going to use. So what tools? First is expert judgment. As I mentioned earlier, we need to ask the expert judgment. So we need to get information from them. So what we got from the expert judgment, knowledge from the previous similar projects. Because the previous similar project only can explain to us what will happen in this project, how we can design or develop our scope. So the development, the plan to the plan scope started from this information. So information from similar applications or industry. Okay. All right. So next is the data analysis. Data analysis. Okay, I'm going to stop another 2 minutes. I know you after that we have a quiz that I already set for you exactly at 10 PM. So I think never mind. We stop it here. So any question? Because you don't have enough time nanti to start, because immediately after 10 the quiz will pop up and then you need to answer the quiz from the chapter 2. Okay, any question so far? I put a mark here for the next week. So I start again next week, started from tools and techniques. I explain back. Any question?
No, Doctor. No.
All right. So everything is okay, eh? All right. We have another 2 minutes. I think inside the you can you see the quiz or not yet? Is it any pop-up in the Microsoft Teams on quiz?
Yes, available.
Already out, eh?
I'm not sure about pop-ups, but it's there.
It's there. All right. So quiz 2 project integration management. So all right, this is already there, and then okay, I think I stop here for today. So we continue next week on Monday. Sorry, Tuesday next week, inshallah. So we close our class today with Tasbih Kifarah and Surah Tu'as. Okay, with that, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.